Alright folks, this is my next video in my series on the Prusa Mendel version 2. What we have here today is the ATX power supply unit, which I'm hoping to use for powering the 3D printer. I don't know how clear this will be on the video, but I'll try to look at zoom in on it for you. What we have here is a 250 watt power supply. Yeah, that's very close to the not being enough. So whether or not this actually works or not, we'll see. It may not power my hotbed or the heat plate, but hopefully it'll be enough for the motors and the extruder. We've got 16 amp on the 5 volt and we've got 15 amp on the 12 volt. Again, I would have liked to have had more amperage on the 12 volt. By the research I've done, I think 15 amp is going to be the minimum, and a lot of people prefer to have about 20 or 22 amp. We don't really use the 3.3 volt or the 12 volt, negative 12 rather, and the rest are all unnecessary. So yeah, that's that. It's a cheap power supply, one that's I've got lying around in a cupboard in my apartment. So hopefully I can utilise this and not have to spend yet more money on this build. So I don't know a whole lot about electronics, I don't pretend to, but I did do a course on when I was at college, and I remember most of it. Yeah, so I make do and I go slow and I try and do it carefully. This here is the guts of the power supply. Just a safety warning to everyone, these big capacitors, if the power supply has ever been chucked at, plugged in recently, they could have quite a high voltage stored in them, so they are actually very dangerous. You've got to be very careful of these. Yeah, you've got to be careful of everything in here really, because this is electrical item, and by removing the shield cover you're exposing yourself to the danger of electric shock. Having said that, this one's been unplugged and is currently unplugged and has not had power on it for quite some time, so I'm safe. Now, as you can see here, this is the wiring loom coming out the top. This is your standard ATX wiring loom. You've got, I think it's a 20 pin, 2, 4, 6, 8, and you've got a 20 pin connector for your motherboard. You've got a Molex connector with some, I'm not sure what these are actually, they must be some slightly newer connectors for possibly a hard drive. I don't know, is there anything on them? I don't know what they are. You've got another old sort of small Molex connector for the likes of a floppy disk or possibly a CD-ROM drive, and you've got a 4 pin connector here, and they are generally for connecting to the motherboard to supply power to the CPU or the CPU fan. If I can't quite remember, I think it's a CPU, right? Or possibly the graphics card. No, the graphics card usually have 6 pins if I remember right. So yeah, that's all that's on this one. It's like I say, it's quite a cheap power supply. I think a lot of the higher quality power supplies come with sockets in the side of the case, so you only need to connect the cabling that you require Now, if you plug in a power supply and just switch it on, nothing happens, okay? This has been covered in other videos on YouTube, and this is how I'm researching how to do this, basically. But simply, the black wires on your 20 pin connector are ground, and I believe the yellow is your 12 volt. And if you take this green wire, I think it should be, some say it's pin 11, and others say it's the green wire, so you got to be careful about that. But you can test it by bridging these sockets with a bit of solder or some small piece of wire, and if you've got the right one, it should turn on. So you bridge basically the green to the black, and that completes a circuit, allowing the power supply to power up. The green is the signal on wire, I believe, if just going from my memory. Now what I would like to do is cut these wires off, at the required length, and actually drill some holes in the case. I don't know where I'll situate the holes yet. I'll need to check to see what clearance I've got, and then having done so, I'd like to fit oh no, what do they call them? If you give me a moment here, folks, I have forgotten the terminology for these connectors that go on the side of the case. So I'll just have a quick look online. Binding posts, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so what I've seen done is people drill some holes in their case, they fit binding posts, and they'll have a binding post for ground, a binding post for a plus 12, negative 12, 5.5 and 3.3, So it's all neat and tidy. The case is completely enclosed, there's no wires dangling out the back of it, and then they just connect the power supply that they require for as a bench power supply for testing purposes on a electrician's or possibly a instrumentation test bench. Now, a lot of lads, for the rip wraps, they simply just cut the wires that they don't require, and then this is actually quite a good one to use, because you've got your 2 12s and you've got your 2 grounds there, and they just use this one, and I think this one's got the most amperage on it, to go directly to the ramps board, okay? And then they just cut the socket off and wire it into the connector on the ramps, and the rest are all cut back, either on the PCB at the bottom here, or possibly slightly higher, and then the ends are shrink wrapped or heat shrink, just for safety and in case they want to utilize one of these power cables in the future. Now, one of my concerns is I don't have a lot of knowledge about the gauge of wire here. I have seen that on one of the videos. The guy says that these, I think this is, what did he refer to this as, 12 gauge possibly? I can't remember the gauge he referred to on his PC power supply unit, but he says they're not adequate for running the rep wrap 3D printers. So I need to do a little bit of research on that yet, and get some knowledge on that, or some information. So my idea was have it all done internally, and then just like a benchtop power supply, have my connectors here, my binding posts, and then a heavy duty cable then coming from the binding post to my rep wrap. I don't think it needs to be like, you know, massively thicker than these cables are. You know, the components would probably burn out if you put too much of a load on it. But that's my idea, and that's what I'm intending on doing. So I've ordered up some binding posts. One of the other factors I've got to try and ascertain is whether or not the power supply will suffer as a consequence of not having any load on the 5.5 volt circuit. I think the 5.5 volts are on the red wiring, and there's quite a lot of them, as you can see. So there's a few oranges mixed in there, but by my rudimentary understanding of it is that the power supplies are designed to be able to provide the 5.5 because it's generally always needed on a PC, and if that's not there, then that can cause the circuitry some issues. So if you want to prevent issues in the future, you have to have some sort of load on these wires. It depends on the power supply though, and I don't have detailed knowledge of this issue at the moment, so I've got to research that and find out how to determine whether or not this power supply requires a load on the 5.5 rail. So that's something outside of my normal comfort zone, so I'll need to do a bit of reading and a bit of research on that. So I think that's about all for now. I can't think of anything else. Oh well, concerning this 5.5 volt load, some people just use a light bulb over their printer. Others have a resistor on a small circuit added to the internal area here somewhere. I've seen a couple of solutions online, and that's 13 minutes already, folks, so I'll leave it at that for now, and I'll update you when I've got some progress on the PSU here. Wish me luck, and hope you've enjoyed the video and found it interesting. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.